1. I live in student housing with 3 other girls. They rent out the room, so it's all individual leases. 2 of the girls are Athena and Brizo. The other one I've been having a problem with is Calliope. At first, Calliope was fine and generally told us she didn't want her stuff being used without being asked. Okay, fair. One of these things was her air fryer. This is huge for her, as apparently her old roommates broke 10 air fryers from her. I tried abiding by this rule, but every so often I forgot as I was running late or in the middle of cooking, etc. She would throw a huge fit in the group chat and eventually started messaging me alone, asking why I used her air fryer without asking. I apologized, and I even suggested to put in my own air fryer, as I didn't have a problem with people using it without asking. She said no, and she was keeping her air fryer on the limited counter space we had. I eventually gave up, and again kept asking her, but I also forgot from time to time. One time she goes out of town and I come back to no air fryer and all her stuff gone. I put in mine and continue as normal. She comes back and switches mine with hers and shoves mine to the side. I thought of this as rude, as she expected everyone to give her courtesy when we touch her stuff, but multiple times she will move our stuff without warning like a landlord. There's been multiple times I've had no idea where my stuff went because she moved it. I swapped the air fryers again, and she texted me immediately asking I don't touch her stuff. I rebutted with, well, you touched my stuff. You lost your air fryer position when you took your air fryer with you. She then said she only did it because she came back at one point during her trip and accused me of using her air fryer and leaving it dirty. I don't even remember if I did, as I know the other roommates use it as well. Either way, I highly doubt she came back from an hour-long trip just for 3 seconds, and then go back out an hour again. I gave up and put my own air fryer somewhere else and started using it. The final straw for me is when she started fussing about me using a garbage disposal, as it stunk. Calliope has many problems with smells. She has multiple air fresheners around the apartment, and an automatic one that goes off every 5 or 10 minutes. Athena and Brizo never complained about the stink smelling. I turn on and clean the garbage disposal. She texted me I need to stop using it entirely, and instead throw my waste in the garbage can. I told her she can't tell me what to do, as it didn't bother anyone else except her, and I clean up after myself as much as possible. Another one was floors. She expects and fusses if the floors aren't cleaned every week, as it upsets her that they're dirty. This one is where I don't know if I'm in the wrong. I come from an Asian household where we don't wear shoes in the house. I don't expect everyone to do this. I just go to my room and put on my slippers if I need to go to the kitchen. I think Athena and Brizo go barefoot, or also rarely wear shoes in the house. Calliope and her boyfriend wear shoes in the house. I don't use the common spaces as well, just the kitchen. There's been times where I'll clean the kitchen floors as I use them. But as for the entire common space, I don't feel like that's my responsibility, as I go straight to my room and stay there. Calliope uses common spaces and is also the only one who makes a fuss about floors. I altogether stopped cleaning the kitchen floors though, as Calliope demanded I needed to clean the floors. I got tired of her and said essentially stop texting me, because I'm moving out at the end of the month and nobody has an issue with the things I do. I also blocked her. She's now telling my other roommates that I don't care the messes I leave because I'm moving out at the end of the month. Am I making her life so much harder as the stress is getting to her? So am I in the wrong? Hellfreezer's note. You're not really in the wrong here, but as it is a shared apartment, and even if you don't use the spaces as much as everyone else, I think it would be fair if everybody took a turn cleaning the common areas. But everything else, she's really just making things more difficult on herself. If the air fryer's that important to her, then for heaven's sake, keep it in your bedroom, love. Just as you had to end up doing, and that wasn't fair, especially when you're much more open to people using your property. But as you say, you're moving out soon, so she will be somebody else's problem. 2. Background. New place, one couple, one other roommate, and myself. I just moved from an area that doesn't have recycling, only trash pickup. Coming from a city that recycling program discontinued due to trash and doing research on the topic, I find it more as a moral debate. If you want to do it, great. If you don't, well, it's not illegal, and as long as you aren't filling up the trash can to the point where nobody can fit anything in it before trash day, then to me that's the only inconvenience I'd cause being a roommate. There's no fine associated with putting recycle in the trash where I'm at now. Part 1. 2 roommates are pretty big into recycling. One is split, and after expressing that I couldn't care less about the subject, I still, out of courtesy, put my rinsed cans and bottles and broken down cardboard in the bins. This is the extent of which I am willing to recycle, unless it absolutely won't fit in the trash can, or can wait until next trash day. Trash comes every week, and our bin is hardly half full. Part 2. We've only been here 3 weeks, and each trash day, I've had to stuff half of the recycling and trash bags from the overflowing recycling bin, because it's an eyesore. And every afternoon one of the roommates has brought the trash can back to the house, thinking that since trash hadn't come that day, then it won't for another week. But every time they show up the next day, I finally explain to them that if the trash doesn't pick it up on pickup day, then it will usually come the next day. Part 3. The couple roommates have just gotten into town yesterday and tomorrow. But the recycler of the two asked me today to take the recycling to the center. I say sure just to be nice, assuming I can run an errand along the way. Part 4. I do some research and the local dump has permanently shut down and the nearest one is a 30-minute drive one way in the boonies. I can't even run an errand if I wanted. There's only 2 medium-sized boxes of cans and paper cardboard. She's saying we can all take turns and that this turn is mine. I tell her, look, I don't mind sorting my recycles for trash, I don't even mind driving if it were on my route. But no way am I about to drive for an hour to deliver 60 empty cans and 20 flattened cardboard boxes just because it's recycling. She then says that I'll have to buy groceries that don't have to be recycled, as if she won't allow it in the trash. I then established I won't be using the communal recycle bin. If she wants to police the kitchen trash can, go ahead, but I'll just take it out with my personal trash then. She got in a mood and stormed off while telling me she'll just do it and try to lay a guilt trip on me because her day is apparently busy. Suffice to say, I took it and delivered it across town 30 minutes each way, spending more money and gas and time than it was worth. And finally, I haven't gotten home yet, just ate lunch in the park. But so far I've decided to put my recycling in my own personal trash and throw it away in our trash bin. Technically, I pay for a quarter's worth of space in it each week. I grew up around people who always wanted to split chores but never actually did them. It's annoying. I'll sort my recycling if you want to take care of it, but I'm not going to deliver it out of pocket. Hellfreezer's note, I totally understand where you're coming from. Personally, I'm all for recycling. Where I live, we've got 4 trash bins. General waste, garden, paper and cardboard, then glass and cans. Glass, plastic bottles and cans. But if it's that important to her, she can do it. You were nice to do it just the once, but certainly don't do it again, even if she tries to guilt you into it. Her lifestyle choices should not affect you. As long as you're doing the bare minimum, then that's fair enough. The plus side of recycling, if you have recycling bins, is, it takes up less space for the trash that can't be recycled. But you've got to be practical about it. And it certainly sounds like you are, so just keep on keeping on, and she can keep on making herself miserable. I think it's more about control than anything else. With a lot of people, it becomes their whole identity. They should get a personality, and recycle the old one. 3. So I'm a 21-year-old woman and my boyfriend is 25. Moved in with his manager, a 47-year-old woman, because I'm strapped for cash and wanted to finally get an apartment with our 2 cats after being separated from them for months due to housing. The move-in is in less than a month. She inherited the apartment from another co-worker who lived in it with 2 other single men in their 30s. Let's just say cleaning was not their strong suit. I'm talking 5 years of husky hair in the carpets that caused my vacuum to smoke. Dust-caked ceiling fans, baseboards that were white were black. Looked like someone had a bonfire in the oven. And the bathroom had poo all over the seat and slobber and dog hair cemented to the bathroom floor. And when entering, the house smelled like dog. It punched you right in the face. Wet dog, urine, and crap completely bombarding your senses. Also, let me go on to say that I have lived there only a week, and I have hardly even started with the issues. First off, her and her boyfriend were meant to live in the apartment together. They have been together on and off for 2 months, and are now planning to get married within the next year. While she has been dating him, she has been divorcing her previous husband. 1 out of 3 ex-husbands who was abusive. Her boyfriend fled from Alaska with a DUI and DoorDashes full-time. Days before they are going to sign the lease, he says he's backing out and breaks up with her. She says it's fine because she has a new roommate lined up. He freaks out when he finds out it's her male coworker, my boyfriend. Gets back together with her and signs the lease. Can't say this was out of jealousy or insecurity, but actions speak louder than words. Moving on. It's Friday. Me and my boyfriend are meant to move in on Saturday, but we still don't have a key. We ask her to drop off the key at some point on Friday. She responds back at 9 p.m. saying that she's at the apartment now. We meet up with her only to find out how awful the apartment is. This is the first time that we have seen the place. This was also the first time that she had seen the place, and we were both absolutely disgusted. We ask her for a key, only to find out that she has the only one due to the other roommates not being responsive or moving out their possessions. We open up one of the bedrooms to find it is littered with empty bottles of alcohol, a box spring and a bed frame, and just literal trash everywhere. Supposedly, this roommate was coming back to pick up his belongings but had yet to do so, and didn't even bother to give his keys back to his roommate. Apparently he had been moved out for over a year but was storing stuff in his room that he had yet to clean up. So we only had one key. Knowing that she was likely not going to show up bright and early tomorrow morning for moving, we took the key. Moving on to Saturday, me and my boyfriend are deep cleaning the apartment top to bottom. Once we clean up our room, we get all our possessions in there and move in the cats. This goes on until about 6 p.m., and we had started at about 7 a.m. The roommate has not shown up all day. At this point, we had cleaned the entirety of the disaster apartment, and we had not heard a thing from her. Eventually, at 7 p.m., she pulls up with a trailer with her belongings. She said she meant to bring the trailer yesterday, but a tire popped, and so they had to take everything off the trailer and put it onto a new one. Saturday, even after we deep clean the apartment and move in our own stuff, she asked us if we could unload her trailer. Meanwhile, she's let her dogs into the apartment, and not 1 minute into going into the apartment with her dogs, her one dog, a 2-year-old unspayed dachshund, pees on the floor we just vacuumed and shampooed. And at this point, after all the events of the day, I'm ready to start screaming. I find poop in one of the other unoccupied rooms. I ask my boyfriend if she told him that her dog has a potty training problem. He says no. He was totally unaware, and also tells me he's pretty certain that the dachshund is in heat. Her vulva was inflamed, her behavior was off, and the peeing on the carpet pretty much sealed the deal. My boyfriend told his manager, asking if she was aware that her dog was in heat. She said she had no idea. Moving on, we introduce the dogs to the cats. She has the dachshund, as I mentioned before, and a large, elderly, morbidly obese mutt with tumors all over his body. The poor dog is absolutely pitiful. All sorts of red flags are ringing in my head that this woman is abusing or neglecting her animals. My boyfriend then disclosed to me that she had 7 cats, was euthanizing 3 of them, giving away 3 of them, and keeping only 1. This fact about the cats isn't really relevant, but I believe it describes the kind of pet owner she is. We introduced the cats and the dogs in a monitored environment. Immediately, the big dog scruffs one of my cats that is really friendly and runs away with him. My boyfriend is screaming at him to drop the cat and pries his jaws open to get the cat out. We then push both the dogs out of the door and stare at each other. My boyfriend is extremely protective of the cats. He's even declared that if anything happens to his cats, he would literally die or kill for them. One cat is an emotional support animal that has been with him even in times of homelessness and substance abuse. He tells his manager that the dog nearly killed his cat. She dismisses it and says he's probably anxious for moving, but he has lived with cats before, so he'll be fine. This obviously does not alleviate any stress from the situation. It's super dismissive of the problem. Moving forward, it's Sunday and his manager also has the day off. He asked her if she was planning on bringing more of her items today. She said that she had not fully packed everything at her apartment, despite being told that she was accepted for the apartment 3 weeks ago. This means that there are no groceries, no cookware, no dishware, no silverware. She said she would bring all of these items so we wouldn't have to worry about buying some of our own. As I'm writing this, it has been a week, and she is still yet to bring anything else from her apartment to the new apartment. My boyfriend really likes to cook, and eating out is expensive, so this is not ideal. Her and her boyfriend are eating out every night, but don't even have utensils for eating their takeout. At my boyfriend's job, she works during the day and he works nights. So he spends most of the day at the apartment and she spends the nights at the apartment. I was out at work and my boyfriend was staying at the apartment for the day when the dachshund pooped 3 times and peed twice on the carpet. He asked his roommate if she would do anything about it, and she said that she was at work and he would have to take care of it. And he did, only for her to proceed in peeing and pooping more. It's about Wednesday and my boyfriend decides he's tired of cleaning up the pee and poop after stepping in it one too many times. She gets angry at him and asks him why he didn't take care of the mess, only for him to reply that it's not his responsibility. She says he's being immature, and it takes 2 seconds just to clean it up. When it comes to scrubbing carpets of pee, it does not take 2 seconds. Any pet owner can tell you this. I'm really peed off, so to speak, at this point, and she decides that her dog will maybe stop peeing and pooping if we scrub the carpets. I said that I had access to a carpet scrubber, and so she asked me if I could just do it. I come to the apartment with my parents' carpet scrubber to start cleaning the carpets. I've been there for 2 minutes, and her dog has pooped and peed already. Both times right in front of her owner, and both times her owner did not scold her or do absolutely anything about it. Eventually, her and her boyfriend leave, not even offering to take stuff off the carpet so that we could clean them eventually. I tell my boyfriend I'm not going to clean the carpets, as he's in agreement with me. There's no way that the peeing and pooping on the carpets is going to stop after cleaning them. It would be entirely useless at this point, they were just going to get dirty again. I mentioned in passing that the dog needs to be litter trained, if it can't even go outside, and she asked me if I could do that for her. I'm livid. She won't even take responsibility for her dog's potty training issue. Instead, she would rather have me take care of it. Not only that, but I asked if she would buy a baby gate so we could confine her to the laundry room where there isn't carpet when she's not being supervised. She said she didn't have money for it right now. I don't even have money for it right now, but I went to Walmart and bought a cheap baby gate for her, only for her to tear it down, saying that she feels bad if the dog is isolated. So it's been a week of living like this. My boyfriend and I are applying to other apartments. Thankfully, we are not listed on the lease of this apartment, so we can leave whenever we want. But this has been an absolute nightmare. This weekend we asked her if she was planning on getting more stuff from her apartment, to which she replied she had done enough last weekend and was taking this weekend off. I invited my boyfriend to my parents' house with the permission of my parents, because of the absolutely disastrous condition of the apartment. Honestly, this whole experience has been a nightmare. I never thought I could have moved in with a worse roommate. I genuinely thought people were joking when it came to disastrous roommates. I thought she would be okay since she was an adult, middle-aged woman. But I was grossly mistaken. This was made really clear when she started bitching about her daughter like a teenager, who had moved out, been kicked out, of her mother's house at 16 for micromanaging her relationships. Which, to be fair, she probably was rightfully worried for her mom, as she had several pretty bad past relationships. I had the experience of meeting her daughter, who looks like a lovely girl. Total polar opposite from her mother. At this point, her boyfriend is slowly moving things out of the house, but he has made no comment on if he is moving out or not. But I expect him to be gone within a couple of days, with no trace left behind. I suspect he's as fed up with it as we are. This one's a doozy. For context, I'm a 21-year-old woman. Live in a university-owned apartment with 7 other girls. 4-bed, 2-bath, each of us in a room. I knew one other person in the apartment before moving in, but everyone else was randomly assigned. My direct roommate, Jay, is a 25-year-old third transfer student from abroad, and has made my life here so uncomfortable. I am also an international student and a third year. It started back in January, when I had my boyfriend over in the room. Jay wasn't at home, and I sent a heads up in the group chat. Our roommate agreement, which the university makes us write and sign when we move in, says that we only need to send a heads up when bringing over a guest, which I did. I asked Jay when she was getting back home. She said she needed 20 minutes. So my boyfriend and I left the apartment to respect her personal space, too. We went to eat dinner, picked up some groceries, and returned home to find that she hadn't returned after 2.5 hours. I know because I have her location and my other roommates were sitting in the living room. So my boyfriend and I went back into the room for another hour. Message sent in group chat once more. As soon as I heard the door to the apartment open, I let Jay know that we were in the room, but we'd be moving to the living room. After sitting in the living room for 5 minutes, I had 8 missed calls and 10+ messages from her. She ordered me to come into the room and proceeded to yell at me for 30 minutes. She was slamming the table and her laptop with a straightener, striking her head, and walks with her hands. And yelled so loudly that everyone in the apartment could hear it. She claimed that I had snuck my boyfriend in and didn't ask her permission to bring him into the room, even though she wasn't there and I sent a heads up like we agreed. She eventually said that she didn't want me to bring any guests over at all. A consequence I accepted at the time because she was extremely agitated, couldn't be reasoned with. I was afraid that she would hurt herself if she kept slapping herself. More relevant context, she lives on the time zone of her home country and sleeps from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. She snores loudly all day and screams on the phone all night. She'll watch videos without headphones, sing and chant to music, groan and cackle, and laugh loudly and cheer for sports games. Normally this wouldn't be too much of an issue for me, but it's a constant disturbance until 7 a.m. sometimes, and she's loud. She's so unbelievably loud. She has no friends, which I'm not saying is an insult, just merely an observation, which I think clouds her ability to see why I'd want to have friends over. She actually said that she doesn't know why I'd ever want people to enter the room, to which I replied that people like studying together, getting ready for parties, or just hanging out. She was perplexed at that thought. She suggested that if I wanted to bring guests over, then I should have gotten a single room. Myself, my RA, and resident director all believe that Jay should have gotten a single if she wanted a room to herself. I brought this up to my RA, who said that our housing conduct rules forbid Jane from banning guests, so I let her know that I'd be bringing guests over sometimes. I made sure that I'd respect her schedule, but reminded her that this is the contract she agreed to. Later that night, she sent me a text with the following excerpts. As you sent the document, I never agreed on the document because I don't agree with it. If a guest enters our room, it would feel threatening to me. I'm so scared. Again, valid. but she never made any effort to establish this boundary with me. 4 months into living with each other. We all sat down and had a roommate meeting at the beginning of the year, where we discussed and wrote down all our rules. She was present, but made no attempt to establish her own boundaries by adding her input to the shared document. These are boundaries we established as a group, which she agreed to. Text heads up for guests regardless of time. Ask permission for overnight guests to your room if they're staying in the room. Ask everyone if they're staying on the couch. Try for at least 24 hours. I don't want to invalidate her feelings, but this should be something you need to be willing to face if you're living in a communal space. It's inevitable that people will have guests over. Lastly, if this doesn't work out for you, I recommend you considering a room swap for your sake. And safe to say, I didn't sleep at home that weekend. She's also failed multiple classes and had to switch her major, which I know because she takes her counseling calls on speaker in the room. It seems like she's acting out because of this or some sort of mental health issue. While I empathize, she doesn't go to class at all and doesn't study. I myself have been through my share of depressive slumps, but it seems like she's not trying. She's failed the same class twice. She's admitted that she doesn't go to class because they don't take attendance. While it sucks that she's failing, why am I dealing with her crummy temperament? I'm not the only person in the apartment who has issues with her. There have been times where my other roommates have had to send texts in the group chat asking her to shut up. Then when Jade doesn't listen to the texts, they have to get out of bed and remind her to stay quiet in person. Jay has walked into the room while I'm asleep at times as late as 4:30 a.m. and turned on the lights. She slammed doors and once violently tried to open the bathroom door after I took a 45-minute everything shower. If you know, you know. Mind you, there's another bathroom in the apartment, and there was only 3 of us in town that weekend. Every night for the past month, she will not turn off lights after our agreed-upon time of 1 a.m., and I've been sleeping with AirPods and an eye mask on. Over winter break, my ENT literally told me that it's unsafe to wear my AirPods as often as I am, but I have no other choice as I can't sleep with her loudness. My roommate who lives next door also wears headphones at night due to noise and can hear calls from her bed. She's made my life here so difficult and uncomfortable. I'd have given her so much grace and haven't reciprocated any negative behavior towards her. However, her recent craziness has driven me to Reddit seeking vindication. With the school year drawing to an end, I'm in the process of filing a formal housing complaint. I'm being petty and choosing to make her life a bureaucratic hellscape, hoping that this complaint serves as a warning for her future roommates at least, or prevents her from living at a university-owned apartment. Hellfreezer's note, I really don't think you're being petty here. What you're doing is the sensible and mature course of action. If they can't move her right now, that's unfortunate, although if she's doing as bad in her studies as you say she is, it might only be a matter of time before she gets kicked out and has to leave anyway. But if that's not the case, I certainly hope they're able to get her out of your shared apartment, because she's clearly not suited to being around other human beings. Maybe that'll change. Maybe in the long run this will be good for her and she'll mature and get the help she clearly needs, because clearly the counseling she's getting right now just isn't cutting it. Either way, I hope it works out for you. 5. Hi, I'm currently living in a university dorm made for 3, but it just happened to be only 2 people living in it, so it is relatively big space for each. My previous neighbor got expelled, and very soon I met my new roommate. There were a lot of things wrong with him I noticed as soon as I entered the room for the first time. I'm 19, and most of the students in the dorm are between 18 and 23. This guy is almost 28. 2. I soon learned his character is terrible. He was probably jealous of me having a girlfriend, because he says she can't visit our room. Sometimes he tried to pick up girls in a dorm chat in terrible ways, or tried to talk to them in the kitchen. He never succeeded because he never closes the door, and I hear literally everything when he does so. And because of that, he attempted to make my life as uncomfortable as he could. like unplugging the internet cable or my electric teapot. 3. He looked like an old man. He had bags under his eyes, and most of his clothes were from the Soviet Union. His phone was from the year 2013, if not earlier. But this isn't the main issue. 4. Smell. If you've ever lived with your grandparents or visited a retirement home, you know what I'm talking about. All his possessions and he himself were stinky as hell, and the room soaked up his smell very quickly. Although he was washing himself and all his shoes and clothes every day, the smell didn't go away. I think it's either from his collection of rags, which he used very often with or without necessity, or from his sweat, because he was sweating non-stop. And here we come to the main point of our story. This guy never opens a window. I think he just likes the smell of rotten body, and tries to keep it concentrated. When he settled in, it was winter, and I was okay with that. Also, this time I tried to be friendly with him, ignoring his childish behavior. But summer approached, and it became impossible to stay in the room for more than 1 hour. One day I burst out, when he started eating his stinky food again and listening to his TV shows without headphones. I told him many times to use them and to reply that with them the sound won't work. I started yelling at him aggressively about all his sins like smell and behavior. He also started yelling that I've never cleaned a room. That's true, I'm not as tidy as him, but I've never left food or drinks on a table, and our room is one of the few that doesn't have cockroaches. His complaints more about mess on my half of the room. That I've never listened to his requests, also can't disagree with this, but only after he'd been here for a bit, and he started to show his terrible behavior. At the start, everything was pretty fine for both of us. He also insulted me and my family multiple times and seemed like he wanted to fight. Luckily, I had enough control to understand that it would be bad for both of us, so I just ignored him. The next morning, I went to the commandant of the dorm and asked for his resettlement. He left the room the same morning and still hasn't reappeared. And luckily, she found another weirdo that had a free spot in a room, so now I'm in a free room with my girlfriend living relatively happily. I understand no one is perfect, and most importantly, I'm not a perfect roommate as well. But I think I have more pros than cons, and the only pro for this guy is that he usually left for the weekends. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Bad Roommates, episode 20. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button and share the video with friends and family. And if you'd like early access to the videos, support me on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. You'll also find a link in there to the Hellfreezer merchandise store on Teespring, as well as a link to the Hellfreezer Discord. And if you'd like to leave a tip for today's video, you can do that by clicking on the heart underneath the video with a $sign in the middle. Not required, but it is very much appreciated, and thank you kindly. Okie dokie, let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: if you can't sweeten your tea or coffee with sugar, what would you choose instead? Personally, I like honey in my coffee, and I don't really sweeten my tea, unless it's green tea, in which case a little honey as well. I only really use sugar if I'm baking, actually. Yeah. I've usually got a bag in the cupboard, but only if I'm baking. Why don't you let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's have the answer of the day from a previous video. And this was in relation to times when you've preferred the knockoff, or the substitute, for the original. And today's answer comes from M. Lee, QS. I love frosted mini wheats. I will eat them whenever I can. I will say I prefer the store brand to the cereal brand like Kroger's versus Kellogg's. They just taste better to me. Thank you very much for your answer, M. Lee. Okay, and with that, I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.